So a habit I developed during the pandemic, a helpful habit actually, is that while the pool was closed, I started to go on early morning walks, and to my surprise, I find that it's one of the most thoughtful and creative times of the day for me, before the busyness of the day really picks up and I get distracted by lots of demands from other people. I can think my own thoughts. Who knew I had thoughts? And so I use that time to prepare sermons and think about issues that I'm tackling, and sometimes listen to a podcast or two and walk for an hour or so. It gets my blood going, and see all sorts of interesting things in a different light because nobody's around, and it's a good habit. I like it. Probably a less helpful habit I developed during the pandemic is, like many people, I think I'm drinking too much alcohol now. I really enjoy my evening whiskey, and more than one, and I'm aware that's not as good for me over the longer term as not doing that so regularly. So that's something I'm going to have to work on. I wonder what your New Year's resolutions will look and sound like. This week at Mustard Seed, we're going to look at a passage of scripture that's set down for New Year's Day in the lectionary, one of a number of possible readings, but this one is from Matthew chapter 25, which, if you're familiar with that chapter, is very judgy. It's got 3 stories in it that just ring with judgment against people in a sense. So there's the first one is about the 10 young women, and 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. The wise ones, they all go out to wait for a bridal party to come and have their final celebration of the wedding. Often bridal parties would pick up family members around the place, and you never knew exactly, in the days before iPhones and telecommunications of any kind, you didn't know exactly when people were arriving from distant places, and particularly roads weren't and transport systems weren't then what they are now. Well, they're not that good these days either. So 10 young women go out to await the bridegroom. 5 of them were wise, and they took extra resources, oil for their lamps, etc., so that when the bridegroom and the bridal party finally arrive, they have what they need to welcome them. Whereas 5 of the young women who went out were foolish, and they neglected all the supplies that were going to be required for a long wait. So when the shout goes up, oh, here comes the bridal party, they don't have oil for their lamps, and they go to the young women who do have oil and say, can we have some of yours? And of course those young women say, look, we bought enough for us, but not for us and for you, so you better go and wake up the traders in town and see if you can buy some. Of course they miss out on the celebration, because while they're away, the bridal party arrives and it's all too late. The next story is one of a master who entrusts resources to 3 of his servants to look after and to use and to trade while he's away. And the first 2 do quite well, and they double the resources that were entrusted to them. And the 3rd man is very fearful of being judged by the master, which is interesting, and so he buries those resources in the ground and proudly produces them when the master returns and says, see, I lost nothing. And the master basically says, yeah, but you did nothing. You're a wicked and lazy servant. You should have at least put it in the bank. So a bit harsh. And then the 3rd story, the one that we're going to particularly focus on, it's at the end of Matthew's Gospel, and the numbers will be there. I can't actually remember what verses they are, but they will be there. And it's the story of the Judgement, and people gathering around the throne of God and being separated into 2 distinct groups. Some who seem to have responded during their life with grace and generosity to Jesus, who was present among them, and others who seem to have been utterly disregarding of Jesus when he was among them. And both groups are unself-conscious of the way they've behaved. When, Lord? When did we care for you when you were sick or hungry or needing shelter? When, Lord? When did we reject you when you needed those things? And the remarkable thing is that both are unaware of their behaviour. So neither group have consciously done these things. It's kind of been an expression of who they are and how they've lived and what they've thought was most important. And that's what's shaped their judgment. And that seems a bit strange too. Gates are up for the New Year's celebration down here. So, we're going to think about what is this judgment of God? What does it look like? What does it mean? How do we engage it? How is it helpful? How is it unhelpful? It's easy to think that the judgment of God is about God wanting to punish us for being naughty. And I think it's very, very different to that. In fact, I think the judgment of God is a call to us to wake up to what we are missing out on by our foolishness. And that there's so much more there, both for us personally and for those with whom we live, if we live faithfully in response to the kingdom ways. So, mustard seed. This coming Sunday, 1st of January 2023, we're coming into a new year. What will you resolve to do? How will you resolve to live your life in this year ahead? I'm feeling hopeful. 2022 has been a hard year. Maybe all years are hard, but let's live into the fullness of the kingdom, and we might do life the best possible way for ourselves and for those with whom we live and for the world, to the glory of God. Hope you can join us one way or another. See you soon.